This is Marketing Uncomplicated. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I have Benjamin Hawk on with us today. He's a creative strategist, strategic creative. How about couples therapist for brands? And we're going to get into that because a lot of marketers have, sometimes we've talked about, should we get a second degree as a psychologist? For 20 plus years, Ben has helped businesses build and maintain mutually fulfilling relationships with the human beings and communities they serve. I love that statement. He helps brands understand and redefine themselves by generating ideas that tap into culture and radiate values and that travel across space, channels, and communities. Ben can do it all: brand campaign, e commerce, product development, innovation. He helped American Express build out new products, services, and benefits for card members and merchants. He helped 1-800-Flowers. Wow, where did 1-800-Flowers ever go? I used to love them. Build a new modern brand strategy. On his watch, BMW was the best-selling luxury auto brand for 7 quarters in a row. Amazing. He's been an agency executive. He co-founded an innovative consultancy for Verizon, and he's a karaoke boss. So maybe we're going to have to get some tunes by the end. Welcome to the show, Benjamin.
I don't know. Is there enough bandwidth for how much of a boss I am at karaoke?
Oh, I love this. Well, welcome. We're so excited to have you. Just lovely introduction, of course, in terms of everything that you've done. But what I like to do is just typically start, and kind of understand your path to where it has led to where you are today.
Yeah. So I started off, well, I'm a theater major. So the karaoke boss thing is a little more understandable in that light. I went to a very small liberal arts college and I was a theater major, but they have a very academic theater program there. So it was very structured. It was very dialed into Aristotle, which is further intellectually structured as the idea of storytelling, the idea of what drama is for society. And so I got a lot of rational kind of input from that, and a great foundation for storytelling. And so the next kind of career point was I was an editor for a publishing company, and I wrote children's books. All of them were like for intellectual property. So I wrote books about Ratatouille.
Yeah.
I actually got those crazy proof scripts from Pixar and had to sign crazy NDAs.
Yeah.
To read the advanced scripts of Ratatouille, and we got it changed a million times before we were able
so
to
cool.
finally publish. It was awesome, but there was no growth.
Yeah.
None.
Yeah.
So that it was obvious that wasn't what my career was going to be. And then I went to a party with a friend from high school who I hadn't seen in a while. And he was like, "You need to join this advertising agency with me. You'd be a great copywriter." And I said, "That sounds fun."
Yeah.
And so I did. I applied for that and I became a junior copywriter. And then I just kind of started there. I started at Razerfish. What I think was pretty much the golden era for digital marketing. Budgets were still pretty sizable. Clients didn't.
They were great. They weren't just sizable. They were awesome.
They were fantastic.
Yeah.
And clients really, especially for established agencies like Razerfish, kind of known experts, and especially I joined when they were owned by Microsoft. So there was an aura of expertise, and the clients understood that we understood the medium.
Yeah.
And so we had latitude. We could do a lot more things. Some of the things that the agency did was Postopia, which was the post-serial children's destination playground.
Yeah.
Which was awesome. I did a lot of work for Capri Sun. If the people who are as old as I am listening to this remember the Disrespectoids, worked on that stuff, and we had fun. We had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mostly CPG stuff. But then, as I started moving up the chain into associate creative director land, then I started branching out into different kind of industries, focused on tech a little bit. And then because of whatever reasons, a rut or personal life stuff, I decided that a kick in the butt was necessary. So I moved to New York.
That's a big kick in the butt.
It is. It is.
Yeah.
It's advertising mecca, right? So
Yeah.
that's what I did. I made the pilgrimage. I kind of made the sacrifice.
Yeah.
Sold my car, just moved out east, and I started working for McGarry Bowen on Verizon, and then I was working on the digital side of things, but I was also working on the traditional side of things. You know, my team, my creative team, was working on TV spots, digital videos, websites. We were running the Twitter account. We were doing all of their social media. We had this amazing room because of those budgets. We had this amazing room that was like a war room
Yeah.
in a movie with like 100 TVs and like the ring of desks in front of them, and it was basically this. It was a
Feed.
conceit.
Yeah.
It was such a BS conceit. But
Yeah.
it was like here's the social team. We're aware of everything in the world, and we're
Yeah.
going to be able to make Twitter posts about what a. It
Yeah.
was dumb, but it
Totally.
was awesome.
Yeah, of course it was.
And then
The
sometime in
golden
the middle of
age.
that, what's that?
It was golden age of
It was,
social.
it was, it was,
Yeah.
it was amazing. Everything was happening. This is the era when like really fast marketing was really starting to happen. You know what I mean? Like the blackout Super Bowl and the reactions to that, like really just fast and relevant stuff. This is when like Wendy's started having a spicy kind of social media voice. And that was really awesome to watch because, we'd been preaching to our clients that the most important thing for your brand was to have a kind of a human relationship with your audience. And so having more personality in the social space, brands started dialing that up.
Yeah, because they were afraid of it before.
They were totally afraid of it.
Yeah.
Everything was bland. Everything was, and there's still a lot of that, obviously, like with the massive brands, brand managers for the big companies, they live and die by like 0.5% of volume of sales. So they're risk averse. But sometimes you'll come across somebody who's got a little bit of chutzpah. And so speaking of chutzpah, the person who was in charge of marketing and communications for Verizon, Brian Angelette, he came to McGarry Bowen because of the trust he had for us and the trust he had for our strategy team, especially. He came and he asked us to help create a gallery of the future for Verizon in terms of new digital products and ways to engage customers, not just products, but like even business models. He said nothing is off the table. So we kind of looked at, people, place, pricing, and product. And so we did that. We had like a breakneck 3 months of brainstorming and idea development. And then we built this gallery, this like huge walkthrough gallery in their like biggest convention room. And the head of marketing and communications walked their C-suite through it. And that gave us basically the green light to open up a black box innovation shop inside of McGarry Bowen, which is funny if you think about it, because McGarry Bowen is like the classic trad agency. And this was like bleeding edge tech consumer innovation stuff. It was a big head scratcher, but it was awesome.
It was probably like a direction that they wanted to move in, and like they could do it now because you guys were separated from their name, right?
Yes. We one of the first things we did was one of the first things I did there was I said we need a sub brand. So we called ourselves MBI, which was McGarry Bowen Innovation, and it was our only client at first, and by design was Verizon. But we had a $10 million retainer, and that was pretty nice. Bonuses were pretty good at the time, and we built like a lot of ideas, and some of those ideas, anyone who's worked in innovation consulting knows that it's really 80-20 is lucky. Like if you have 80% like of ideas go on the shelf or into the trash basket and 20% get into development, that's a shining star. And we didn't even have that. We were like 90-10, but still we developed some products that went to market. These are old products and they're not on the shelves anymore, but there was a connected car product. We had like a video streaming product that went into the trash, but we
we hung on to it. Yeah.
I mean, we made proposals. I don't know if you remember Google Stadia, but we made a
Mm-hmm.
proposal for Verizon. They wanted to have a product that was a proof point for their 5G, which they were just rolling out.
Yeah.
And they were the first telco to be rolling out 5G. And so 5G is about, high bandwidth, low latency.
Yeah.
So our idea was, how about a mobile first video game streaming platform? And Google Stadia, this is 3 years before Google Stadia came out.
Yeah.
We called it Cloud Arcade. They loved it, but shelved it because they didn't feel like they had the equity necessarily to the cred to be able to do that. Although I don't know, that's debatable. But
so they kind of shied away from it. Yeah,
we did some cool stuff.
Yeah.
When Verizon got reorganized at the leadership level, then McGarry Bowen's Verizon client structure got reorganized as well, and the black box got disrupted. And so the capability was just like retrenched into the rest of the agency. And so I started working for American Express. And that's
where everybody at some point in their marketing career ended up at like American Express.
I mean, I hope so. They were one of my favorite clients.
Yeah.
I've got to say, they are true believers over there.
Yeah.
They, every client matrix has, roadblocks and, annoying people, but American Express was the organization, like, wholly overall, that I think everyone really was trying to be collaborative. Everyone really was trying to work to make the best things happen.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's where I was able to kind of like marry the innovation and marketing idea under that client. I had, a really good managing director, a really good executive creative director, and it was no longer the golden ages, but it was still, I was doing really, really interesting work as a GCD.
Yeah.
And so running American Express's digital work, doing their site work, but also working on things like their business card products.
Yeah.
So we would build new benefits for their business card products. A lot of that stuff was about digital marketing.
They have great branding,
automation.
Cohesive branding.
They really do.
Yeah.
They really, really do. McGarry, the other side of the McGarry team did their like light rebrand where they like refigured the logo and came up with instead of don't leave home without it, they made it don't live life without it. And then the business side is don't do business without it, which I think was a good update.
Resonates.
It does. And also, the two sides of that company are, even though you sign into the same website, they're divergent from their purposes, right?
Yeah.
You use your card as your personal card to buy things.
Yeah.
But your business card, you use that to get loans, you use that to float payroll, you use that to do all sorts of, that's much more of a functional business tool than just like a credit card, right?
Yeah.
So
no, I completely agree.
But that was wild. And then, COVID, and that was kind of like, I think that did the same thing no matter what to all marketers everywhere. It was just kind of like a big blanket thrown over people, and you had to kind of adapt to survive.
Yeah.
But digital never went away in COVID.
Yeah.
Digital became more important than ever in COVID.
Because eyeballs.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of eyeballs, a lot of all-day eyeballs.
Yeah.
And new channels.
Eyeballs that people had never even seen in numbers before. Yeah.
And then digital channels, finally, client marketers were like, we need to rely on these digital channels. And then they started seeing massive ROI from relying on these digital channels. So coming out of COVID, now that some of the, like, experiential channels are back in, and some of the, like over the top but live kind of things are back in, and above the line is just is I just don't think it's ever going to really come back to the place that it was before.
Yeah.
Because everything like everyone understands that you need to integrate. Your brand
Yeah.
needs to be integrated. Like CEOs and CMOs of the bigger companies, and this is probably what I would say. I would like to come back to this when we talk about small and medium-sized businesses, but
Yeah.
the Fortune 500, the Fortune 50 companies, their CEOs and CMOs, all they think about is connecting the dots. All they think about is brand consistency across touch points, and how to make sure that they're having consistent relationships with their customers and provide, that amount of recognition and respect and reciprocity.
Yes, because they are at scale. Yeah, they are at scale and they're spending the budget. So ensuring that their brand voice and brand look and feel is consistent across the board because they are spending in so many different channels behooves them. And it has to be that way. But for the small to mid-sized companies, that's where I want to dive into the fundamentals, because with the lack thereof, not setting yourself up to think like an enterprise company from day one can be like a hindrance to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, I love the entrepreneur. I really love the entrepreneur, and that's why I work for them.
Yeah.
But I will say most of them didn't get into their business to do marketing.
No.
I did.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
And I love it.
99.9% of the ones that aren't marketers setting up shop in agencies have no clue.
Right. Well, I wouldn't say no clue, but they don't understand the structures, and they also kind of don't necessarily understand why you need to set up for the long haul.
Yes.
They want to get to market, and that's understandable. They need to, they're starting a business. What they think about is the bottom line, and they think about revenue.
Yes.
And it's, they think about, I don't know why I'm saying they. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur just as much as anybody else. We think about marketing. Often we think about marketing as an expense as opposed to what it should be, which is an investment.
Yeah.
And if you aren't building a strategy for your brand at the beginning from the ground up, you're putting money and effort on the table to worry about later, and it's going to come back.
Yeah. No, totally. There's so much I want to do from the last couple of sentences that you said from an unpacking standpoint, because there is so much that needs to be unpacked from this standpoint. Number one is entrepreneurs know thyself in terms of like where your arena is and where you understand, because look, a majority of all these entrepreneurs also come from other companies that they've worked for. They've engaged in some sense with the marketing team. So they have a 5,000 foot view and understanding of like what marketing does. But know thyself in the standpoint of like, don't stand in your way of your company's growth. Fundamentals and foundations, key thing. To your point, I like what you said, and you corrected me in the sense of, it's not that they don't know anything, it's that they don't know like the building blocks. They don't know like the cornerstone of how to build for the long term. Third is it's an interesting thing to look at COVID, because a lot of the times when I step into companies, COVID's here as an anomaly because those numbers are just insane. But looking at pre-COVID, and then, if I'm jumping into a client now, it's really understanding pre-COVID and then the scope of a year after COVID, right? Is really like what to be looking at and that standpoint. So, let's dig into the crux of the small to medium-sized companies and really dig into the fundamentals and really the things that need to be done and what, they need to be thinking about to set up shop, because it's not, oh, I have an amazing project, which they probably do. And because nobody knows who the heck you are, just because you press launch, the floodgates are not going to open. And that needs to be understood, right? So that's where the psychology comes in of like putting it gently to our clients. Like, you're genius, but people still need to know about you.
Yeah. Look, you can have the best product in the world.
Yeah.
You can have the product that sells itself, but nothing does. Nothing does. And without understanding that product doesn't translate, right? You know, one of the inventors' dilemmas that they face, not the innovation dilemma, that's obviously a different thing, but one of the inventors' dilemmas that they face is how do you show people that you've invented this genius thing, that you've got this, or, you know, even if you haven't invented it, that your service is better.
Yeah.
How do you, you know,
and just to kind of like put a like a piercing in our conversation, it's like there are a lot of products and services that are insanely amazing and like innovative and new and so on and so forth. But let's talk about the products that aren't, but yet kill it in the market. Prime example, which is Liquid Death, like we've had conversations about, and like you're not reinventing the wheel. You're basically putting water into a beer can and it's staying colder because you probably have a koozie on it when you're at an event, but they connected with the right people at the right time.
Yep.
You know,
well,
so
that was a company founded by marketers. So it's a little bit of the anomaly that we're talking about.
Yeah, totally.
They knew what they were doing, but they also started with some great insights.
Yes.
You know, like, look, that product is an innovative product in one way, in that it is water in a can.
Yes.
And this is an era where, you know, environmental consciousness is very, very important to people, but also so are identity labels.
Yeah.
And so here's the thing. They're like, we can make an environmentally conscious product. And by the way, I don't know if I'm alone. I love the brand Liquid Death, but I don't love their water. Like, it tastes metallic to me.
It does taste metallic.
But whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's not in a plastic bottle, and I buy it because of that. Like, you can recycle aluminum way better. Like, almost the entire thing.
But honestly, it also stays colder than water in a box. Like the water in a box is like.
Yeah. It is. And also you kind of look a little weird drinking water out of a carton. You know, and so, and they knew that. They knew that it's not a good look, honestly. It's polarizing. To be environmentally conscious as your identity, to broadcast it, is not necessarily a good look. You know, you know, without having a horse in this particular race, look at all of the brand problems that Tesla has had, as in terms of a pendulum of identifier of owning a Tesla. The brand is a signifier of, you know, it used to be a signifier of like deep environmental consciousness.
Yeah. Then there was the political shift.
Now it's something else because the owner is the brand.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's a lot to unpack there. But back to Liquid Death, you know, they made a great brand that would just disable that barrier, that break right through it. They're just like, we're going to make this rock and roll, funny, and hard on your sleeve, but tongue in your cheek kind of brand. And nobody's going to have to worry about how they identify other than cool.
Yeah.
You know, so they took the insight and then they kind of paved over it with this strategy.
Yeah.
And that's what it really comes down to, is understanding, you know, what the barriers your audience are facing, your consumers are facing.
Which is probably what they knew prior to coming up with this product. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I guarantee you someone was like, one of the guys was like, you know, we could make a killing putting water in a can.
Yeah.
Why hasn't anybody done it? And then they thought about why hasn't anybody done it? You know, they're not the first water in a can to the market, but they're obviously the far and away most successful. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, to take a step back from the sense of like understanding like that gap in the market as a marketer, what, you know, obviously we had our crisis like during COVID and like what's next, you know, and so on and so forth for a lot of us as marketers who either got laid off because a lot of companies think, and we'll dive into this, you know, when the going gets tough, it's like, you know, it's not an investment, it's a line item. Let's get rid of marketing. But what was your fundamental eye opener, as in like, there's a gap here and this is how I want to serve my clients in a different perspective?
You mean for my business, for
yes.
brand?
Yeah.
Well, that's a
I know you have one.
Questions.
I know you have many.
So the thing is for me, for Corey and I, we got together and we were kind of thinking, there were a couple of aspects to the genesis of Let's Brand. One of them was, we were thinking about all of the effort and all of the commitment and all of those 80% ideas that fall to the floor, and working with brand managers and having those enormous budgets and all the Sturm und Drang that comes with that. And at the end of the day, look, I'm always going to very, very fondly remember all of those years in the agencies. I love the people I worked with. I had some amazing clients. The brands, I mean, you can't have better brands than BMW and American Express. But at the end of the day, again, you're working with people who live and die by like a percent of some volume, and there's risk aversion. And also, even if you do this smashingly successful stuff, you're pushing the needle in these small little directions. Like you're not making enormous impacts that you see immediately.
Yeah.
And all the pro bono work that we ever did, where we were working directly with people who had a direct stake in the outcomes. And I've always been an outcomes over outputs kind of person. I really believe when you're working for a client, you should be working for those strategic goals. Work for the business goals. It's not just to put stuff in your portfolio. It's not just to publish, right? So as you're steering for those outcomes, you're going to hit them. You're going to make your KPIs. You're going to keep the business, and nothing's really going to change. The brand isn't really going to change. You're not really, I don't know. You're not seeing a big difference in the business. You are, but you're not. And so coming out of the agency world, there was some disillusionment about, the holding companies, et cetera. So that aspect was pushing me out. But what was pulling me into the small and medium business space is the rise of the technology that allows them to get the same kind of scale that the bigger companies have with a smaller budget. The ways that we can use AI as a tool to automate some of the upfront stuff, the strategic stuff, the structural stuff, the menial stuff, is spectacular, and really it has enabled us as an agency of two to be able to make a difference for our clients, to be able to see the difference that we make immediately. Because when you raise your client's revenue by 10-15%, but they're a $5 million revenue business, that goes a long way. That makes a big difference. That signifies a shift that they can pivot on into next level growth for their business. So it wasn't so much of a gap in terms of like an empathy gap where I'm like, you know what small business owners really need, other than the fact that they aren't in it for marketing, right? Like that's, for me, that's the gap that I fill. I want to be the expert who enables you to wear one less hat and do what you are good at, which is, focusing on your product, focusing on your people, and managing the money, and I can help you get reach.
No, thank you for that. I mean, but also from the standpoint of like why everybody starts something, it's not, and to your point, it's not necessarily a gap, but it is like, it's a fundamental switch of, how can I be a better service to either X community, or how can I make the life better of, these people? And it is a group, right? I mean, we talk about small business owners like covering 90% of our GDP from a global level, right? A lot of what we talk about, and yes, like as marketers, it's exciting. Like, when we're working in the back end of like agencies, or we're working in house for like these cool brands and the big stuff. But what's interesting is that you've come from enterprise and you're now supporting small. So there's a through line between the things that we've learned in enterprise and how that function and process really relates so strongly into the smaller environments, because of the simple fact also that they have speed and agility to market, which enterprise doesn't necessarily have, because you're all of a sudden taking up an ad sometimes to the chief revenue officer who shouldn't be dipping their fingers in marketing, but they are.
Right. right?
Yeah.
Or your entire C-suite is located inside of one person,
Yeah.
right? So I guess when I say like we bring scale, we bring big business scale to small businesses, that's not just in the ability of like reach or in the ability of like how far your dollar goes in terms of ROI or ROAS, but it's also in terms of the kind of scale of strategy, the scale of long-term goals, and the ability to think broader, longer, bigger.
Yeah.
So having, having and the funny thing about a lot of small businesses is a lot of them are perfectly content to be in their place.
Yeah.
You talk to some people and you're like, you could 2 or 3x your revenue like by spending 50 grand.
Yeah.
And they're like, why would I want to do that? That would make me so busy. And it's just kind of like, okay, I understand that. Like, great.
Yeah.
We don't have to go that far, but we can, right? Like, you have a dial. You can throttle whatever you want. You can put a budget to something, but that's not what I'm really talking about. I'm not really talking about stair-stepping your revenue into immediate growth and then expanding into more brick and mortar shop or whatever.
Yeah.
What I'm talking about is I'm talking about having to, when you have those longer term strategies, when you understand what you're going to do cohesively across channels, when you build a plan
Yeah.
for those things, funny enough,
Yeah.
you don't have to do as much work.
Yeah.
You really don't.
Yes.
And the work we try to do is to make ourselves obsolete,
Yeah.
to empower the people who are already there on the ground running these businesses very, very well. Nobody knows their businesses better than them, is to empower them to be able to lean back a little bit because they've got a playbook for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's what enterprise does. I mean, the enterprise looks 3 years, 5 years, 10 years out.
Yeah.
If you're looking at the next 6 months and you don't already know what you're doing it wrong.
Yeah.
You'll get fired.
Yeah, no, totally. But what's also interesting is, not to circle back into COVID, but it's like even enterprise companies cut back, they dwindle down, like from a marketing standpoint. It's not that the small business owners and the mid-sized companies are the ones that are always cutting. It's also larger enterprise companies that are doing that. But the difference is that they have an ability to pause a lot more than like a small business owner or maybe a mid-sized company.
Right.
But what the default was of why we saw a lot of businesses shut down like during COVID, and I like this as an example because no matter what, there is going to be seasonality in your business, and there's going to be situations, even when you are successful, where things are tough, right? Because you're maybe not making X amount of millions like you were last year, or like so on and so forth. But the premise of this and the foundation of this is not to pause, not to delete marketing, but to pause and to scale back and focus on things that generate your ROI for you, and to make sure that you're looking at these things and you're looking at these numbers and these KPIs and you're saying, okay, social media doesn't do great for me from an ROI standpoint, but it helps create awareness. Instead of posting 6 to 7 times, a week, or 8 times a week, or 9 times a week, scale back to 3. Make those decisions collectively,
Sure. Or, well, yes, and right. I've got so many things to say about this. Okay, so one thing is that I don't know, for the past 5 years or so, a recession has been right around the corner. Around the corner. The recession is right around the corner. Right.
Yep.
Scale back your budgets. Recession's right around the corner.
Yeah.
However, I don't remember exactly where I read this, but I read that something like 90% of Fortune 500 CEOs don't actually believe a recession is anywhere near.
Yeah.
So if they don't believe it, why am I believing it?
Yeah.
As an entrepreneur, I'm not. What I like to think is, you look at the landscape, you look at the behavioral landscape. That's what organizes my actions. I look at what's happening. So if I see that people are scaling back in one way, then I look to see why that's happening. Is there less engagement? Is there actual less ROI there? Or is that an opportunity to kind of step up in that space and differentiate a little bit? Yeah. I'll tell you that, Mini, when I was working for Mini, they had a shoestring budget compared to BMW.
When you say you were working for Mini
automobiles.
Mini automobiles. Okay. Yeah. Mini.
Like
okay.
Mini Cooper.
Yeah. Got it.
I would have had such a long conversation with you about brand recognition at that moment a year ago. So they scaled back their budget quite a lot.
Yeah.
But what they did was they looked at the money that they did have remaining in the budget, which wasn't up to them, by the way.
Yeah.
Like they didn't make the choice. You work when you're in an agency, you work with the marketing department.
Yes.
They want the budget. So,
Yeah.
they're very amenable, very, very empathetic. They're like, look, but the things that they scaled back on were a lot of the above the line things. And for Sean's sister, above the line is like just straight advertising, right?
Yeah.
Like you see a TV spot, you see a banner ad, that's above the line. And they scaled all the way back on their above the line, and they drilled all of their money into digital transformation.
Yeah.
So when they were essentially kind of silent in the market, they were still working hard on marketing.
Yeah.
We were still building infrastructure for them. We were still working on their digital, their owned and operated digital, and refining that and making it better, and working on their brand and working on their, behavioral tone of voice. One of the things you asked earlier is like, what are some of the like small business gaps between small business and big business is understanding that tone of voice isn't necessarily just about words. It's about all of your brand experiences. It's about all of your actions. Any time your brand is brought up in a conversation, that's a brand experience. Bezos said your brand is what people say about you when you're not in the room, and that's absolutely true. But you do have some control of that.
Yeah.
And being able, like, that starts with your owned and operated spaces. That starts with the people you employ in-house to write the messages, but it also is in everything that you do with your pricing. It's also in when you do promotions. It's also on, how easy your website is to navigate and how easy it is to get to a purchase. So anyway, they drilled down into user experience, into brand experience. And honestly, their sales stayed the same and then grew throughout this period where they had a diminished budget, which is almost the worst thing that can happen for an agency.
Yeah.
Because we're showing efficacy with less money. And then they're like, why do we need to spend more money?
Yeah.
But that's one of the most important things that I learned in the past 4 or 5 years is that, with less and less and less money, you can still do very, very, very effective marketing if you learn to shift your focus.
Yes.
You learn to shift your focus onto the important things.
Yes.
Based on, and this is also super important, based on a constant sense of strategic research into your customer.
Yeah.
What is your customer looking at? So yes, fine, diminish your budget a little bit, do a little less, but you can do more with less when you look at the places where the opportunities are.
Yeah. So here's an interesting kind of like slug into that. We think about like enterprise brands and we think mega budgets. We think everybody's got a Nike budget. And it's not necessarily to say that maybe they don't have that. It may not just be where they're injecting their money. As you said, some people are injecting more money into digital transformation and so on and so forth. If you look at a brand like Red Bull, I know a lot of people who work for Red Bull and they have squiddly dot for a marketing budget, right? But to that last statement that you just said, dial into your customer base, and the constant research of understanding who they are, where they are, is highly important because
Red Bull at that.
Nobody can get any better than that, right? No, they've killed it from every angle possible, right?
They continue to.
But there's lessons to be learned and to borrow from to inject potentially into your company and into your business. And today more than ever, especially post-COVID, I think community is something that a lot of people aren't tapping into.
Absolutely. Community and to a broader extent, citizenship. So
yeah.
Those are
define what you mean by citizenship, because you and I get that, but yeah.
Your brand is an entity in the world. Your brand is an entity in your community, which is kind of at a micro level a little bit. And then you can go broader and say your community is your audience instead of just your customers. And that's true.
Yeah.
But you're also a citizen in the landscape of the market. You're a citizen in the world. It's true that brand affinity and brand commitment is at an all-time low. And things like value, especially price, are really top of mind for a lot of consumers. But that really just kind of levels the playing field for everyone in it.
Yeah.
Obviously the economy of scale is going to treat Shein better than it's going to treat the mom and pop, atelier down the street.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what I mean when you are able to drive that affinity. It is very powerful and it's very valent and it's a connection that lasts.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at what your brand experience is, what your brand actions are in the world, you're going to be held accountable for those things. It's the age of information. So if you're a polluter, if you are not transparent about your supply lines and your where you're sourcing your materials from and how those people are being treated, when you don't have the economy of scale to make products on the cheap, you have to be very conscious of your citizenship and what it means. And that does not mean be political. It means be an active participant and aware of how you are active in the world. Right. And so and that comes out of community. That's people's relationships with brands are basically exactly the same as people's relationships with other human beings. I met you. We talked a few times. We decided that we had a lot to talk about, so we had a few more conversations. And then we built up a bit of a rapport and knew that we would be able to have a productive conversation here in this venue. Right? The same thing happens. I buy a product from X company one time and I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. But then they recognize me. They respect me. They the next time I see them, it's not starting over from scratch. They've got a really good, CRM that reaches out to me when they've got a promotion. They give me early access to things. That's the functional part of working up a kind of a more human relationship, and then building community from that, understanding where your wider interests are and then supporting those things. So beyond the individual relationship with me as a customer, now it's people like me, because people like me are the people who buy the product. And so with Red Bull, it's very obvious what that is. That's pushing the boundaries on things, right? It used to be just extreme sports, but now it's actually like way more fun. It's like pushing the boundaries on like intellectual things and art. And it's anybody who's just really, really bold, taking chances, taking enormous risks, and they pour money into that, both for the people who participate in it, creating entire new sports. Like,
innovative.
Those like propeller plane races, those were not really a thing before Red Bull,
Totally.
So it's giving. They're giving to the community of people who are interested in excitement.
Which is allowing them to build on their innovation as they continue to grow as a company.
And what they're doing is they're giving value to the audience. Essentially for free, because how many of those people actually drink Red Bull? They don't all, right?
I can't stand Red Bull as an actual drink, but as a brand, I'm obsessed. Which is such an interesting dynamic to have somebody that follows their account, like is obsessed with them, but just hasn't probably drinking a Red Bull since college.
None, right? Like the best brands give value to consumers, not customers, but consumers, their audience. The best brands give value to their audience without a dollar being spent. That is I think one of the most fundamental brand basics that you have to understand. And it's not, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to, invent a propeller plane racing sport. It just means that you have to have some value. Some of that value is, is that citizenship. Some of that value is proving that you abide by a set of values, right? So and then some of it is like promotional things like discounts and whatever, but it's, it can be knowledge. It can be like facilitating certain things. But if you are seen as giving first, you are more likely to be given to. With the customer dollar.
Yeah, totally. That is an excellent point, because I think a lot of brands forget about the giving value. And when it comes to like developing content and how they can really connect with their audience, they completely dismiss the value portion because they get so wrapped up in terms of like what their brand is. But it's like, it's easy. Like, let's riff up, right? You have a bikini brand. You can give value to somebody. Maybe there's a multitude of ways that somebody can wear that bikini, from tying it to the side, to the left, to the right. I don't freaking know, right? But that's giving value in that sense. Maybe there's also giving value in the sense of you wearing that swimsuit because it is, not fast fashion. It is so on and so forth. And you educate your audience on things like fast fashion, which brands are fast fashion, which ones are like wasting the environment, and so on and so forth, right?
Educating your customer base, telling them, not just being transparent, but being educational and exposing some of the things that you believe in to show you as a different person from the other brands. Also, like, in category but out of product for that bikini brand, like, show me a secret beach. Like show me a beach that is not overrun with tourists, but like has nice soft sand. Like give me a way to, one of the things we talked to BMW about doing, and I still want them to do this so bad, is that they've got industry leading sustainable materials in their automobiles, right? So they've got like vegan leather, they use no rare earth minerals in their magnets and in their engines and stuff, and they are built to be circular. Circular meaning like recyclable, upcyclable, etc. So they are doing citizenship, but they're not standing on it, right? They're only using messaging to talk about this, as opposed to putting their money where their mouth is. We suggested that they should work with like industry leading scientists and engineers to design a sustainability index, a recyclability index for automobiles, for all automobiles, and then rate themselves and submit to a professional group and say, this is the BMW sustainability score of 9.1, and then Audi's is 7, Mercedes is 6, Ford is 2, whatever. Stand on it. Even if you are not rated the best, that you've already made the pledge to customers that you're doing it. You're already competing on it. Stand on it. Raise a flag about it. Like, put something into the world that speaks to your promise as making the ultimate driving machine, because the ultimate driving machine is not necessarily just for performance addicts or people who shift lanes without turning their blinker on. The ultimate driving machine to some people means that it's the most sustainable, it's got the best range, it's got, the best safety features. So, like, change the industry, take steps. Not everyone's going to be able to do that, but if you believe your product is differentiated in a way, take some action that puts that into the light, rather than just like taking out an ad.
I completely agree. I mean, because there's so many ways to like reach, and I love that you said that, because we have to educate. It's funny, right? I mean, like, the initial conversation sometimes when I have with clients are like, I need your help to build a Facebook ad. Why? do you need my help to build a Facebook ad because you believe that you belong on Facebook, or because the industry is telling you that you should be on Facebook, right?
That's output, not outcome.
Yeah.
That right there. And you get that all the time, right?
Yeah.
I think part of what our job is to translate. When I was in ECD, I would tell my team, our job, I think, can be boiled down to translator most of the time. We translate clients' ask into what the client's need is, and then we translate, customer need into an insight and a concept for a campaign.
Yeah.
Or a recommendation for how to operate in a channel.
Yeah.
And then we translate those concepts into messaging and creative for the consumer to see and understand.
Yeah.
It goes all the way back to that inventor thing. Like, why do you care about this product? Why do you care about this brand? And the product only goes so far. The promise underneath it, look, technology and advancements are making the field even for all products.
Yeah.
The difference between, unless you're paying like a lot more money, the difference between two products in terms of quality, in terms of like the rational value, thread count, or fit and finish, cut, what kinds of, how many buttons you got in a car. It's like technology, leather seats, etc.
Yes.
Good audio quality, right?
Yeah.
All cars have those. You can buy a Hyundai that has that.
Yeah.
And you can buy a BMW that has that.
Yeah.
Why do you care about spending 2 times the amount on or 3 times the amount a Hyundai costs to buy a BMW? There are reasons, right? There are rational reasons too, like, oh, well, there's safety, there's blah, blah, blah. But there's also, underneath it, there's a promise. There's a promise that one of these cars is built for drivers.
Yeah.
And the other one isn't.
Yeah.
And that's the promise that BMW stands by, that every car they make is built for driving it. Yeah. It's not just built to sit in. It's not built to listen to the radio. It's built for driving in it.
Yeah.
And so all brands need to have a fundamental idea about what that is, and then translate that into what are they doing on Facebook?
Yeah.
What set some goals. Yeah. Set a goal. Yeah. Make an outcome. Like, okay, and that's beyond like get X customers. It's like, we want to be thought of as leaders in this product space, or we want to sway opinion about this particular demographic because we think our product fits their life really well.
Yeah.
We make these products for those people. It's not just we need to sell more to women. It's, we're underserving a part of our community, and how can we do better at that? And how can we be earnest and show them that we give a fuck to do that? Oh,
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
No, of course not. You can say that word here.
I'm so surprised that's the first time I've said it.
I know. So considering you said you were a sailor, I was too. This isn't PG.
I try to be mass audience when possible.
Yeah. Okay. No, I completely agree with that. And so then that leads to my question then. What do you think is the fundamental mistake that most of these entrepreneurs and small businesses do out the gate?
Yeah, I think it's lack of strategy.
Yeah.
I think it's lack of strategy.
100%. Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely that. Like the
and unpack what you mean by lack of strategy.
Yeah. Well, okay, so you've got a product.
Yeah.
Which means you're going to have a brand.
Yeah.
But if you're not thinking about your brand, meaning if you're not thinking about what your relationship is going to be with your customers, then you're not thinking about how to sell your product.
Yeah.
And if you're not thinking about how to sell your product, and this doesn't mean you have a sales team, because having a sales team is not knowing how to sell your product. You're just offloading that onto other people.
Yeah.
If you don't understand the way to create affinity, the way to create long-term business goals.
Yeah.
Out of that relationship between you and your customers.
Yeah.
You are setting yourself up for a lot of extra workload. You're setting yourself up to have to spend money inefficiently. You're leaving money on the table.
Mm-hmm.
You're adding more effort to your plate. And so, what is a brand strategy? Well, it starts with your customer. It starts with understanding your customer. And the fact of the matter is, oh boy, I cannot tell you how many small businesses don't actually understand who their core customer is.
No.
They understand their product. They understand why people like their product sometimes, but they don't understand.
They think their customer is them, because how many times more than not do we hear, well, I built it because it was missing in my life.
Yes. Oh my God. The number one experience tenet is you are not your user.
Yeah.
Well, I would say, that is applicable. You are not your customer.
Yeah.
You have blinders on.
Yeah.
You are biased.
Yeah.
You are not. Your eyes are clouded by your own business needs.
Yeah.
And your own family's needs and your Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You need to have a roof over your head. You need to have the next meal coming. You need you need to be able to put your kids through school.
Yep.
So you're not actually your customer. You're the business.
Yeah.
You are also not your brand. This is another big one. You are not your brand, even though you may have made the first 500 sales happen by talking to people one-on-one, by handshaking, by hustling. You are not your brand. Your brand is still something that exists outside of you. So you need a strategy for it.
Yeah.
You need to be able to put it together, because if you're not controlling it, the only people that are controlling it are your customers.
Yes.
And that's, that's fine if your product is perfect, priced lower than anything else, but that doesn't exist. That people are fickle. And nothing lasts without a good structure in place. It's like brand is kind of hygiene for your business a little bit. You wouldn't go out and try to make sales without having taken a shower first.
Yeah.
It's right. You are the person inside of the clothes, but if you don't dress nice to go out and try to make friends, what kind of friends are you going to make?
Yeah.
You got to brush your hair. You got to take a shower. You got to, do the fundamentals. Wear some deodorant. Unless you're hanging out with a bunch of smelly people.
Yeah.
who don't shower, right? But know your audience. Know your core consumer. Yeah. Everybody wants to think that they sell to everyone, but it's just not true.
No.
We had a term at McGarry Bowen that we call design target.
Yeah.
Design target is not your strategic target. Your design target is the person who does not exist, who is an amalgam of a group of customers. And you make up this persona, and it's a guy named, Francisco, and he loves opera, and he, you know what I mean? And so when you look at an entire business division of Nike, you look at their yoga line, right?
Yeah.
Look at their above the line creative for their yoga line. You will understand that they are selling to an individual.
Yeah.
There is a person they are talking to. It's an imaginary person, but that is a person. And what they're doing is they're creating this magnet.
Yes.
That is an aspirational idea.
Yes.
And that's what every person who wants yoga clothes wants to be.
Yes.
Their sports stuff is Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So can I put a thing in there as well? Because it is.
You want to be Michael Jordan.
Yeah. So it is interesting because I actually hate the development of this stupid persona where it's what does John Smith do? What is blah, blah, blah? Because it's let's be honest, you're not just talking to one person. You are talking to an imaginary person that is part of a damn collective that goes back to community. Yes. And it goes back to community.
Understand that that's not a real person, right? You have to understand.
Of course, we understand that it's not a big a person, but I think that we need to be thinking about that person within a community, right? Yeah. Because I don't give a shit what you sell, whether it is a service or a product, and you're B2B or B2C. You are still part of that community. You like BMWs versus Mercedes. It's because your family either was a Mercedes family or a BMW family, or because you like the way the machinery works, or so on and so forth. But you're still part of a collective of people who own that, and you want to be part of that.
And let's be realistic. Nobody is one person.
No
human being is one person. ever at all. We contain multitudes.
Because
So
doesn't it go back to purchasing power and purchasing sway? Because even in the B2B environment, if you know that X business is using it, then you're like, I want to be a part of that collective community.
of course,
Yeah.
especially if you orient your brand to serve community like that, right? You know, building, you can build small businesses can build economy of scale by organizing their communities. And you know, there are brands that started based on that. There's a brand called Gustin that makes high quality denim and high quality, you know, clothing, basically, and they sell it for cheaper than you can get it from other high quality denim manufacturers because they make releases. And so they'll say, okay, if you like this well enough to fund it, we'll sell it to you at this price. And that price is well below what you would pay a different, but you know, it's the same denim from Japan. It's the same gorgeous fabric. It's the same very good quality, like made for life kind of stuff.
It just has a different swatch on it.
It's got a different leather patch on the back, and honestly, I got to tell you, I'm a filthy, dirty denim hound, and nobody cares what the patch is on the back. They care what the denim is. They care what the stitching is. They care what the make, what the fit, and what the quality is. And if they never heard of the brand before, they'll go, "What's that brand? Where can I buy it?" You know? So Gustin understood that, and they made their product more accessible to their community. Well, how better can you wear your promise than through direct pricing action and the building of community?
Totally. And I don't want to poo-poo on, like, you know, the concept of, like, you know, creating an avatar. Create an avatar, but know that there's hundreds of thousands of that exact same avatar. Now, avatar A and B may differ in terms of a bunch of other things, but their likeness is towards your product.
Yes, and that's what I was kind of getting at. You know, I my ADD was firing off going into Gustin because I really like the company. But that's kind of what I mean. It's like the Ben who appreciates IPAs is a different mindset Ben than the Ben who appreciates driving in a car. That's a good thing. Specifically. But those are, you know, those are different aspects of me. And let's be honest, there are only some things in the world that absolutely identify you. You know, like there are only some products that absolutely are a identifier badge, right? Cars tend to be one of those things because we are that kind of a society in the United States, and I, you know, I'm kind of into that too. But a lot of brand recognition is not the same thing as like an identifier as an individual anymore. So like me wearing Nike doesn't tell you about the kind of person I am. As much as it used to, right? And me wearing like Cartier doesn't say as much to me as it used to. It to other people. It says something to me though, right? I look down at my watch and I know that it's Cartier, and I feel something when I see it. I remember why I purchased it. It's less about broadcasting than it is about self-identification, I think, these days.
I like that.
Because we're fractured. I mean, look, you have a different, you talked about avatar earlier. This is the era of personal avatars, and you have a different one, and I guarantee you have a different tone of voice when you operate on, let's say, Blue Sky, as opposed to Instagram, as opposed to Threads, as opposed to Reddit. And, you know, I've got 3 different Reddit profiles, and they're all different personalities. I've got one that I use to argue with people, and I've got one that I'm like, you know, more literally focused, and I've got one that's just like out to have a good time, and I switch between them, and I operate in those different mindsets. Consumers are like that. They're just not as conscious about it.
You're absolutely right. They're just
this
not
avatar
as
is just a collection of like psychographic ideals.
It's the crux. It's the foundation. That's all it is.
You know, the thing is you have to trust that it'll speak to that part of that person that harbors a little bit of want to be I've got a tiny bit of Francisco in me, and
Yeah.
I want to, so when I'm out drinking wine,
Yeah.
I want to drink like Francisco would.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I like it.
Francisco is a wine drinker.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you and I could go on forever, forever. That this has been an amazing conversation. I do want to ask you and leave the audience with this. What is one myth about marketing that you wish you could just crack and
Myth.
be rid
I'm
of?
not going to go the easy route. The easy route would say, marketing is an expense and not an investment.
Yeah, I love that.
I mean, really, that's the number one thing that I'm working on trying to defeat,
To push.
in general.
Yeah. And one piece of advice that you would give the audience as small business owners or mid-sized companies in terms of making sure they get right, even if they've been in business for X amount of time?
We've talked about marketing in uncertain economic times, and we brushed over the, I think, elephant in the room, which is the idea of automation. And what I would say is this: be wary of AI. Use AI.
Yeah.
Learn AI and use AI, but use it for the right things.
Yeah.
AI can do some things and it cannot do other things. Use it for research and synthesis. Use it for speed and efficiency. Use it for iteration and structural things.
Yeah.
But do not use it for your brand voice, for your emotional storytelling, for your strategic brand positioning. Don't do that.
Yeah.
AI cannot feel. It has no emotions.
Yeah.
And it will not be able to empathize with your target customer. And also, AI is a confirmation bias in a box.
Yeah.
It is built to want to please you, and it will not tell you when you're thinking wrong. It will not nudge you hard enough to do the right thing. It is good at research strategy, but not insight strategy. It is good at, it is good at telling you about trends, telling you, best practices. It is not good at coming up with concepts or good creative.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Thanks. This was incredible. A lot of insight, a lot of good juice. We appreciate your time, and hope to have you again on the pod.
I would love to come back. Thank you, Sasha.
Thank you so much.